Hello everyone, welcome back again. In the last video, I have explained about what is friction and who discovered the friction and how friction will help you in your day-to-day life. Now in this video, I am going to explain about types of friction, especially in automobiles, like when you're going in a car, when you start applying the accelerator, how your vehicle starts moving. In that situation, what is the kind of friction that is helping you to move forward? At the same way, when you're cruising, what is the kind of friction that will be acting? And similarly, when you're decelerating, what are the kind of friction that is acting? So first one is your static friction, second one is your kinetic friction or sliding friction, okay, third one is your rolling friction. These are the three types of frictions. Let's call static as Fs and kinetic as Fk and rolling as Fr. In the last video, I have explained about friction with a simple formula, right? That is nothing but F is equal to mu n. What is F here? That is nothing but your frictional force, and mu is your coefficient of friction, and n is your normal reaction force. So when I take a block, how these frictional forces will act? So if I'm trying to apply force to push that object, so that is my pushing force, right? And it has some weight, okay? Let's say that weight is nothing but is your n, that normal reaction that is acting. And in which direction frictional force will be acting? So if your pushing force is in this direction, then your frictional force is opposing that motion. Okay, and where is the mu? So mu is nothing but your coefficient of friction. So let's say mu value is 0.8 or 0.9. This surface value will be dependent on the type of surface. Okay, now let's coming back to our example. You started taking your car from your home and you started moving from stationary. Let's say you are at 0 kmph. Okay, this is where your vehicle is in stationary and it's not moving. Now from 0 kmph, you slowly start accelerating and your speed keep on increasing, right? Let's say till 60 kmph, you have increased your speed. And let's say that is the speed limit that you have to maintain. This phase is called acceleration phase. So your speed will be keep on increasing. Then you will be maintaining your speed for some time. This is called cruising phase. Okay, and let's say you have taken your foot from your accelerator and you are not applying any accelerator at that point of time. Then your vehicle will start moving freely, right? That is nothing but coasting. That phase is called coasting phase. So from 60 to 40, it will coast. Let's say then you have started applying the brake and then your speed will drop to 0 kmph. So you're at 0 kmph here, then you're increased to 60 here, then you maintain that speed limit for some time in the cruising phase, then you remove your foot from the accelerator, then that phase is called coasting. Then from coasting at 40 kmph, you started applying the brake. So this phase is called deceleration phase. Okay, in any car or in any motorcycle or any automobile, these phases are common. So acceleration phase, cruising phase, coasting phase and deceleration phase are common. Now when you're accelerating, so from stationary, from static condition, you are started moving. Okay, at that point of time, what and all are the frictions that will be acting? Now I just want to simply explain the force versus friction curve on y-axis I'm taking friction. Okay, on x-axis I'm taking force. You started applying the force, that means you started slowly applying the accelerator. Your force start your I mean the power from the engine will start transmitting to the tire. So this is how this will be transmitting. So once that maximum point, so once your vehicle starts moving, the moment before where that movement starts, that point is called as maximum friction, where your friction is at maximum point. And at that point of time, once your vehicle starts moving, then static friction gives up. What happens is that once it gives up, your static friction will fall down. Then it will go to kinetic friction. So once your power is transmitting to your wheels, you will be having F of S, that is nothing but your static friction. At one point of time, it will start giving up. So it starts falling and then it reaches to kinetic friction. Now why I am explaining this curve? Because now in these phases, in the acceleration phase and cruising phase and coasting phase, I am going to explain which force is acting and which force is dominating you and which force is helping you to move forward. Okay, in the acceleration phase, your static friction is dominating. At the same time, you will be having little bit of rolling friction because your wheel starts rotating, right? So once your wheel starts rotating, so little bit of rolling friction will be contributed in your acceleration phase. If there is no wheel spin, so if you are applying, so suddenly you applied the accelerator and you dump the clutch, your wheels start spinning. If you are doing that phenomena, then you will be having kinetic friction as well or sliding friction as well. So if you are in acceleration phase, you will be having all three frictional forces. Okay, if you are moving your car without any wheel spin, then you don't have kinetic friction. And then coming back to cruising, in cruising you will be having static friction. That is the dominant friction there as well. Why? Because static friction helps you to maintain the contact. Okay, then you will be having rolling friction. So here also your static friction is dominating while cruising. In the acceleration phase as well, it is dominating all other frictions. In cruising phase also, static friction is dominating. Then comes your coasting. So here you are not transferring any power from engine to your tires. So in this phase, your rolling friction is the only dominant frictional force than static friction. So here there will be no static friction because there is no tendency or there is no opposing force on the tire during coasting. That's why your rolling friction is dominant here. So during coasting, you will be having frictional static friction plus rolling friction only. When you are, sorry, this is during cruising. When you are coasting, you have only rolling friction. Then comes deceleration. During deceleration phase, you started applying the brake. Okay, at that point of time, again starting friction will take over. That is the dominant frictional force there. And then you will be having, if your wheel is not slipping or skidding, then there will be no static friction. But most of the time you will apply the brake like in an emergency situation where your wheel starts skidding or locking, right? At that point of time you will get kinetic friction. At the same time when you are decelerating, you are getting rolling friction. So during this sliding friction time, whatever the ABS or other technologies are there, that will come into picture. So if unless your wheel is not entering into the sliding friction or kinetic friction, there is no need of any advanced functions or safety functions. Okay, so here during the deceleration you will be having static and then kinetic plus rolling. If there is no wheel locking or skidding, then f of k will be 0 or negligible. Okay, now how the static friction will help you moving forward, especially when accelerating. At the same time, same static friction will oppose you and it will help you to stop. How it is doing this? So when I take a tire, when you are accelerating, your tire starts rotating in clockwise direction. What is the frictional force direction? So whenever the force having the tendency in a clockwise direction, then your frictional force will start opposing. Let's say your car wants to go in this direction and you're giving the torque to the tire, and your tire start rotating in clockwise direction. Here your frictional force is opposing the tire's movement. That's how it's helping you while in accelerating. So during acceleration phase, your friction will help you to move forward. Similarly, when you're braking, your brakes will start giving the opposite force because it wants to brake, right? So the opposing force will be in anti-clockwise direction. At that point of time, if your force tendency is in anti-clockwise direction, your frictional force will oppose it. That's how in braking, the frictional force also adding or helping you in order to make your vehicle stop. So during acceleration phase, your friction is helping you. During
Disconnected. Smartphone connected.
During deceleration phase, your frictional force is opposing you. Okay, that's it all for this video. So now you have basic understanding about how contact friction, different types of contact frictions will help you in your cars, especially when you're moving forward or when you're braking or when you're cruising or coasting. Okay, that's it all for this video. Catch you in the next one. Please do subscribe.